With Better Call Saul having come to an end, many of us couldn't have predicted that the seasons we've seen would compete with that of Breaking Bad, and it makes for an interesting question. What is the best season of the Breaking Bad universe? Now, many of us will have completely different answers from each other, and it can speak to the consistent quality that the writers have brought with these shows, but I thought I would put together a ranking video discussing how I would place each of the seasons from worst to best. I personally think we haven't had a bad season from either of the shows, or even with the TV movie, but I do have my favourites, and I'm going to be presenting them in this video. But before I get into it, if you want to see more videos on the Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad world, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my ranking of every Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad season. Placing at the bottom of my list is El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. To me, the 2019 Netflix movie is by far the weakest entry from the Breaking Bad world, and while I have many issues with it, it was still a good entry from Vince Gilligan that brought fantastic visuals and interesting outlooks on Jesse Pinkman's escape to freedom. Looking back, I do think the ending of Jesse's arc in Breaking Bad was fine left alone, even if there were loose ends about how he would escape that situation, but it was equally intriguing to see the many flashbacks with Todd that were used to frame his path to freedom. Yes, Todd was quite distracting in the film, and the cameo scenes here were probably the weakest in this universe, but it's a compelling 2-hour movie that still delivers in other departments. Overall, it was unique to see this kind of project, and I think the camera work was one of the standouts for me, especially in seeing Gilligan's use of CinemaScope over the full screen format brought with the shows. At the next spot is my lowest ranked season in the Breaking Bad universe, and that is Better Call Saul Season 2. Now, the second season didn't really progress things as much as I thought it would have, especially after the intriguing character entries in the previous season, but it did keep to the level that Season 1 entered with, and that's still solid in this list of incredibly well-made television. One thing is for sure, is that it gave us much more of Jimmy and Kim's relationship, and it progressed our knowledge of the McGill brothers, making it still a crucial entry in this whole story. And I can't forget that we got more of Nacho Varga, who would go on to be one of my favourite characters in the spin-off show. Making the top 10 is Season 4 of Better Call Saul. I think from this point onwards, every season comes very close in score for me, and Season 4 was an entry that started to really tie in the prequel show to the former one. We saw Gus Fring really setting out to build his empire with the help of Mike, and we get quite the intriguing set of events that follow. Whether it's all the drama with the German engineers in the super lab, the deadly measure that Mike has to carry through with, the boiling war with the cartel, or the missteps that Jimmy makes, this season was essential viewing, even if it is still setting up the connections between the subplots. It was Season 4 that itched ever closer to reaching the tension that Breaking Bad contained, and like Season 2 of Breaking Bad, it was crucial for the characters and their arcs come the end, especially with what we know about Mike and Gus come the events of that show. Again though, it retains its genius humour, breathtaking images, and slow burn pace to keep you ready for more. At number 9, I'm putting the first season of Better Call Saul. The opening season of the prequel show really lived up to the hype that, like season 1 of The Parent example, had memorable moments, lines, and comedy. This was all used to set up the Slippin' Jimmy persona, or Jimmy McGill, and alongside his relationship with Chuck, the scenes with Mike were also a standout. They presented Mike as a more sympathetic anti-hero, and we especially see that in the 5-0 episode, which is all about Mike's past and why he is where he is now. It's episodes like this that indicated to us that the prequel show had the opportunity to live up to the greatness of Breaking Bad and really build over the seasons to make us learn more about these characters that we thought we knew. Better Call Saul may be a show about the side characters from Breaking Bad, but it certainly makes them as important as ever. Up next is the season that kicked it all off, and that is season 1 of Breaking Bad. While most first seasons of great shows tend to be known as the least memorable ones, I think it speaks to the quality of this series with all the great moments we got at the start of the show. It gave us the start of Walter White's turn, it built his partnership with Jesse, it set up the first of the Salamanca villains, and it gave us a promise that things were only going to get more explosive from here. I think it's also a season that executed its dark comedy better than a lot of the Breaking Bad seasons that followed, and having rewatched it recently, I really forgot how memorable that stuff really was. But of course, there's all the fantastic photography and central character work with Walt that has to be praised, being a season that led to the first of many Emmy Awards for this all-time great show. At the next spot is season 3 of the original show. This really was the increasing boil when it came to the show's second half, and the death of Gale and Walter's killings in Half Measure and Full Measure really kickstarted the perfected thrills that this show would bring week in, week out. I could also mention the 1-minute episode, the problems between Walt and Skyler, and the development we got with Jesse, and that's only half of the interesting decisions that were made in this third season. It's right up there when it comes to Breaking Bad, and if it wasn't for the satisfying payoff of the later seasons, this may have been closer to the top. But overall, it's a season that delivers some of the best performances of the entire show, whether it be with Jesse's emotional hospital scene with Walt, both partners' anxieties in the lab, Hank's struggles, and ultimately, explosive turns in the Heisenberg case. It's a season that I'm sure many will put towards the top, and the more I watch it, the higher it moves up my list. Coming in at number 6 is Better Call Saul Season 3. This was a season that contains the important consequences that the show would carry through to the end with Jimmy McGill's redemption arc. In particular, the courtroom drama that this show is mostly half tuned in with came to blistering heights in the lawsuit that took place between Jimmy and his brother Chuck. As Jimmy wins, we see how Chuck's warnings were truly right, and his eventual death is one of the most emotional goodbyes to a character in this universe. Like The Parent show did with Walt, Skyler, and Hank, we got the consequences of the main character's actions when it comes to family, and the psychological twists between the brothers is one part moving and one part sickening to say the least. It had some of the best performances and probably the best episode in the whole show with season 3's chicanery, and to me it'll go down as one of the most rewatched and praised seasons in Better Call Saul, containing a fitting yet moving goodbye for Michael McKean's Chuck. Rounding out the top 5 is Breaking Bad Season 2. When it comes to the next 2 seasons on my list, I found it incredibly hard to decide how I would place them, but I put season 2 of Breaking Bad next because I think the following seasons do pay off slightly more. But even though I say that, this season was absolutely crucial to the underlying emotion between Walt and Jesse and how their relationship would ultimately develop over the seasons to come. There's standout moments here like the masterful 4 Days Out episode episode, the death of Jane, the plane crash ending, or even the development of Jesse in the Peekaboo episode, and the introduction of Saul Goodman in Better Call Saul. They all end up being important pillars of the characters we follow, and it becomes a staple for the darker paths that they will eventually go down. I really love this season, and it's very tight when it comes to how I positioned the next 3 or 4 seasons on my list, but season 2 of Breaking Bad is iconic for many reasons, and I understand why many would have it closer to the top. Next, I'm placing season 5 of Better Call Saul. This season was the final nail for me when it comes to Better Call Saul being one of the greatest shows of all time, alongside Breaking Bad. Like its predecessor, it ramped up the tension, yet it once again didn't lose sight of its differences, giving us great moments with the prequel characters that we love. One of them is Kim Wexler, and it still baffles me to this day how Ray Seahorn didn't get an Emmy nomination for her performance here. Her move down Bad Choice Road was exceptional to watch, and I will never forget the iconic and tense moments between her, Lalo, and Jimmy in their apartment. And I cannot mention this season without referencing the Bagman episode, which is one of my favourite all-time episodes in the Breaking Bad universe. The exhausting yet violent ramifications of that episode are felt in the episodes that follow, and it's no wonder why they used a scene between Jimmy and Mike from this episode in the finale of the show. The camera work and broad scope of it is felt in all of its moments, and Vince Gilligan knows how to capture the desert to the best of his capabilities. Overall, it's a rollercoaster season that is bookmarked with a thrilling conclusion between Nacho and Lalo, and it set up a final season that we all couldn't wait for. Making the top 3 is Breaking Bad Season 4. It was hard for me to decide on these last 3 positions, and especially between the final 2 of Breaking Bad, which to me were packed full on satisfying moments, great production work, and compelling performances. Season 4 has all of this, and it's fully on display in the episodes that give us the end of Gus Fring's reign in the criminal world. And it's also on display in the many iconic episodes of Season 4 too, whether it be the explosive face-off episode, which is one of my all-time favourites of TV, or the devilishly tense crawl space. This season is really the one that made me have all the trust in the showrunners to nail the ending and give us many more standout moments before the show concluded. With this being Gus Fring's final season, we were given some absolute badass moments to complete the villain's arc, especially when it comes to the Salamancas. But I guess he should have also brought those full measures when it came to Walter White in the end too. Still, it's a high-octane season that showcases Walter's complete turn, the demise of Gus, and set up a final season of Heisenberg's reign in full effect. The runner-up on my list is the season that's just unfolded, and that's none other than Better Call Saul Season 6. Coming into the final season of the prequel show, I didn't think that Gilligan and Gould could conjure up another perfect end within the same universe, and for the character of Saul Goodman, they did just that. After a season full of shocking moments and endings to characters we've followed, it was ultimately the telling of Jimmy going from someone of greed, desire, love, and character loops to someone who ultimately has a redemption arc. The creators of the show staged the deaths of Nacho, Howard, and Lalo with brilliance, and it all fed into either the character of Jimmy or the fears that he and Kim Wexler would face going forward, ones that eventually transformed them. From its superb cinematography to its tense writing and its masterful character work, Season 6 of Better Call Saul is a time-jumping rollercoaster that doesn't lose sight of its identity nor its ending. It delivered in every setting it went to, and yes, I am someone who absolutely loves the Gene stuff we got in Nippy, especially with what that episode meant for Jimmy come the finale. We ultimately got the reverse to Breaking Bad in all the best of ways, and from top to bottom, I consider it a perfect season of television. And finally, at the top spot is Breaking Bad Season 5. In my eyes, this was another perfect season of TV, and it was always going to be hard to dethrone this. When it comes to my own personal ranking, and maybe with the advantage of time, things may change, I still consider the end of Breaking Bad to be the perfect conclusion for a TV series, and much like the number 2 spot on my list, this season combines expertly crafted production and character work to bring an explosive end to Walter White's journey. In a similar way to the spin-off's ending, we saw a shocking end to characters we'd followed, and most importantly, with that of Hank in the Ozymandias episode, which is still my favourite episode of TV to this day. In the end, Walter got everything he wanted, but he also lost the connection to his family in the process, showing us the immaculate completion of a villain's arc and the end of the changing process he'd been on since the very first season. There was no dull moment, and it answered every question we had, other than the few loose ends that were answered surrounding Jesse in El Camino. Still, the arcs of all the characters were answered in fitting ways for how we knew them, and it's a season of TV that I think is very hard to beat. Again, Season 6 of Better Call Saul may top it over time and many rewatches, but to me, it did come very close and showed that both shows had perfect endings to the stories they were telling. But that was my ranked list of all the Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad seasons. Like I said before, to me, there hasn't been a bad entry in this Breaking Bad universe, and even the seasons that are ranked lower on my list are still really great. I haven't felt that way about many franchises in history, and I think it speaks to the quality with which Vince Gilligan, Peter Gould, and the whole team work at. And having seen many fans have different rankings to mine, I think it shows how difficult they've made it to judge all of the work they've put to the small screen. If anything, it gets me super excited to see what Vince and co does next, and hopefully it will be another groundbreaking series of TV. But how would you rank all the seasons of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, and like me, do you think the final season of the prequel show is right at the top too? Let me know down below in the comment section. For more videos on the Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad universe, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.